Blessings, one and all, and welcome to the Spirit Side. I'm Paul James Caden, and today on this show we are going to be talking about spiritual companionship. That's something that a lot of people are looking for in this day and age, but they seem to be having a lot of trouble finding it. And we're going to talk about why some of the reasons for that might be in this show. But first and foremost, I would like to address that a few people reached out to me over the last week wondering if everything was okay. I haven't done a show in about a week. And yes, all is well, all is fine. It's just been a very busy summer, very busy with work. And one of the other things I've been doing since early June is I've been taking a course in paranormal investigations, kind of upgrading my knowledge about such things. And that's been taking quite a bit of time. When usually I'd be podcasting, I've been dedicating that time to the course. But that is now over, and that's certainly going to free up a little more time to do some recording here with the Spirit Side. So all is well, just a very full and busy schedule. This summer it's been really crazy. But everything seems to be thinning out now and getting back to normal schedule. So anyway, with that being said, let's talk about spiritual companionship. You know, I talk to a lot of people in a week that say they're looking for friends, they're looking for romantic relationships, they're just looking for like-minded others to be around. You know, these people are quite spiritual. You know, they want to meet someone who's interested in, meditation or exploring different spiritual avenues together. And just having someone in their life or finding a group where they can express their spiritual interests and beliefs and have other people understand where they're coming from, talk about these things and just, form friendships and relationships. But everybody seems to be saying that this is so difficult. And, I think, honestly, we all, as spiritual people, really kind of need to check ourselves at the door. Because if you look in the New Testament in the times of Jesus, the religious leaders of the day, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they were very hung up on the Jewish law of their religion, the laws of Moses. They had to wash their hands before they ate. They had to, say certain prayers at certain times. They had all these little rituals and traditions that they had to follow. And those who didn't, including Jesus, were looked upon with the eye of scrutiny. They were criticized. There were even times talked about in the New Testament where Jesus was invited to eat where some of these individuals were, and they were, whispering, amongst themselves at the dinner table, why didn't he wash his hands? Who does this guy think he is? Why did he not, do this or do that tradition? And, we could picture those scenes in our minds, people at the dinner table, who we would say they're, they have no manners, they're uncouth, I guess you could say. And I'm sure we've all experienced that, where there's somebody that they're really not trying to be discreet about their displeasure or their criticism of you or me or someone else, and they're looking right at you and they're leaning over to their friends or their partner or their husband or their wife and whispering and, shaking their head or laughing. So we can picture those scenes, that this is probably how it played out with the Pharisees and the Sadducees back in the times of Jesus. And I mention that because how much have we become like those Pharisees and Sadducees? And that's one of the problems we're really facing when it comes to finding spiritual companionship. We have all these things we feel that it is essential to believe, or we can't accept the other person. They become an outcast. And you see this a lot. I've seen it online, and I've seen it in, real life, where a lot of the Christian community is really, bought into these modern day conspiracy theories. And they'll meet someone new, they'll make a friend, or they'll be dating someone, and it goes great. They have everything in common. They like to go out to the movies. They both like to hike in the woods. They like to go camping. They like to have quiet times at home, maybe reading a book, whatever it is. They get along wonderfully. But then comes the notion or the conversation where one of the people express that they don't believe in a certain thing. I don't believe all of these conspiracy theories. I don't buy into mixing my faith with politics, whatever it might be. And immediately the other person turns on them and either storms off, walks out, ghosts the other person. They don't hear from them anymore. So in a way, we've become like the Pharisees and the Sadducees. If you don't believe what I believe or how I believe, there's something wrong with you. I can't associate with you. And we even see a lot of religious people questioning the faith or the salvation of others who don't buy into some of these modern day conspiracy theories or Western philosophies and spins on Christianity. You'll hear people say, well, I don't know if you're really saved. I don't know if you're really a Christian. I don't know if you really know the Lord. We get all that kind of thing that people throw at others over the most bizarre things that shouldn't be a prerequisite or a belief that someone needs to have in order to be okay with God. We start ostracizing. And I've seen people do this to one another in just recent years over the versions of the Bible that someone chooses to read. A King James only finds out that someone is reading the NIV or, whatever the case may be. And, there's an argument over that. There's a criticism over that. There's a splitting of the company between two people over such things. So being too dogmatic, being too hung up on our traditions and our beliefs, whatever it might be. And this not only goes for, Christianity, this goes for other belief systems. This goes for just being people living everyday life. We've reached a point in our society, we've reached a point in our world where if somebody doesn't 100% agree with everything that we believe and what we think and what we believe is right, well, we have to turn on that person. We have to take ourselves away from that person. We have to criticize that person. They're not worthy of our company. And now I don't know whether that's just pride that a lot of people are really getting hung up on. I don't know whether it's fear, or whether it's low self-esteem, that if someone says, well, I don't really get into that, or I don't really believe in that, people feel offended and they feel that they might have to defend themselves by becoming argumentative or calling names or tearing the other person down in some way. Whether it's arrogance, maybe, I would venture to say maybe it's a little bit of all of these things. And we find individuals who claim to be very spiritual, very loving people of faith, treating one another in this way. You're not believing what I believe. You're not believing what I'm telling you. You disagree with me. Therefore, I can't spend time with you. I don't want to spend time with you anymore. And even though everything else is wonderful on every other level, that becomes the one deal breaker. Because we're so hung up on our own little, as they would say, Pharisaical traditions and thoughts and teachings and what we think is right. And I would ask the question, does true love behave that way? Does true spiritual love coming from the heart of God behave that way? Because we're supposed to love others with the love of God. The Spirit of God is within us. And so the love of God is within us. And is it godly? Is it truly walking and acting in love to treat other people in that way? And I think we also have to get away from the notion of searching through, the scriptures, looking for a reason to not even, eat a meal with that person or whatever the case may be. We're always looking for verses, in a book or philosophies or, pastors or preachers or teachers who will tell us why it's okay to treat other people badly for the most inane reasons. And so we look to justify our own unloving behavior. And that's something that we also have to stop. That's something we have to check at the door. It's funny, I don't really know what's happened to society, and I don't really know what's happened to the world, where it was okay if you like chocolate ice cream and I like vanilla or strawberry. We can still be friends. We can still date one another if we're in a romantic relationship. I don't know what's happened that one person can't be a Democrat and another person can't be a Republican if they're into politics and they favor one political party over another, that they still can't be friends. They still can't be husband and wife. They still can't be a group of people that get along. I remember a time when everybody had differences, but everybody still chose to be friends and to be there for one another. It was okay if we had differences. It was okay if we didn't agree on every single thing. If that's the way life was supposed to be and that's the way life always was, I never would have had a friend in my life, because I can't think of one friend or one person that I was ever close to or hung out with that I didn't have some major differences in belief and opinion with what they believed. And some of them were very major differences. I've been friends with people who are atheists, and I'm a very strong believer, in God, in spiritual things. But each person stood on their own merits. Were they, no matter what their belief system was or was not, whatever their denomination was or was not, whatever their color was or was not, whatever it might be, whatever their political persuasion was or was not, if they were a decent person, if we got along, if we had things in common where we could have a nice time together and a few laughs, everything else we just put aside. It's not that we wouldn't discuss it sometimes. And that's the funny thing too, is I remember discussing these things with people, the differences that we had. But we never had an argument. It never ended in someone storming off or saying, I can't be your friend anymore. I can't be with you anymore. I can't talk to you anymore. That never happened. It was always just a discussion, seeing each other's point of view. And that was not only for me, that was for other people as well. That was the way the world was back in my day. But now we're such prisoners of our own thoughts. We have to be right. We can't be told we're wrong. People can't disagree with us, or there's something wrong with them. And that becomes a very big hindrance to finding that spiritual companionship that so many people are looking for and craving. Because even in the spiritual circles, that mindset prevails. So now when you're talking about churches, when you're talking about spiritual groups, whatever it might be, there were always people that were cliques. They didn't let the outsider in. There were always people that were filled with spiritual pride. They seemed like they thought they were better than everybody else. They were more spiritual or holy or enlightened or whatever the case may be. So there was always those problems, and those problems were very big in a lot of churches and spiritual groups. But now we have all this on top of it. And we have to turn around and ask ourselves if that's the way we're going to be, if we're going to be full of pride, if we're going to form cliques, if we're going to be opinionated, if we're going to be, egocentric and arrogant and, find fault with people who don't believe every little thing we believe, then what makes us as spiritual people different than the rest of the world? Where is the kindness? Where is the love? Where is the decency? Where is the compassion? Where is the acceptance? Where is the brotherhood of man? The brother and sisterhood of man and woman? What makes us different from the world outside of our door, the secular world outside of our door, if we behave just the same and sometimes even worse? So this is definitely something to think about, and this is definitely something we need, as I said in the beginning of this podcast, we need to check at the door. And maybe when we're going out there, when we're meeting other people trying to find spiritual companionship, and these problems start to come in, creep into the relationship, maybe we should be courageous enough to bring these things up and say, hey, wait a minute. What are we doing here? Why are you getting so angry? Why is this turning into what it's turning into? Because we have different points of view. And pointing out what's the difference between us and the secular everyday world, if this is how we behave. Drawing those lines, ostracizing one another for the same reason that people in just the everyday, non-spiritual, godless world do the same thing. What makes us different? Aren't we supposed to be the lamp on the stand giving light to the room, or the city on the hill shining its beacons of light and hope to the world. It doesn't matter what your faith is, that is true for all of us if we call ourselves a spiritual person. So we need to shine the light and not spread darkness based on differences of opinion, because it's not going to get us anywhere. Except more people feeling lost, more people feeling lonely, more people feeling like they can't find spiritual companionship. And that shouldn't be if we're people of faith. That shouldn't be if we're people that are supposed to be walking in the light and walking in love. So I hope we'll all think about that a little bit as we go forward to, interact with others around us, seeking that spiritual companionship in our lives. And, another one of the big problems is that, I'm making mention, I want to make mention of in this show, is the strangeness and the fanaticism in groups, which of course spills over into the life of the individual. I'm meeting an awful lot of people as a spiritual counselor that are feeling very disenchanted because they're looking for that spiritual companionship. They're going to Bible studies, they're going to studies where people read and discuss the Urantia book, and meditation groups even. I mean, this is kind of across the board. And people are coming away so discouraged and brokenhearted because they're saying in these groups, there's people that are prejudiced, people that are hateful, there's all kind of strange ideas, that it just seems to start to feel very cultish, where it's supposed to be a group, but one person is kind of rising to power as the leader, and they have some very bizarre thoughts. And I'll tell you, this is online, this is in person, wherever people are looking to join groups, they're walking away saying, I can't believe what I heard there. I can't believe what I saw there. What is happening? What is happening in the world? What is happening to people that are supposed to be spiritual? And that's another one we need to be really careful of. Being fanatical, getting bizarre over things. I don't want to mention names. I don't, want to single anybody out. But I know that there's one Urantia book group where there's this individual who claims he's the reincarnation of, he was Adam, the first man talked about in the Bible. He was, I think, Moses. He was one of the prophets. He was somebody else, and he was also Edgar Cayce. And he was the one who actually brought us behind the scenes the Urantia book. Really strange stuff. And there's people following this. There's people who are saying, yes, we believe you. And then it starts to spread like a virus, through the group, and people start getting weird. And, I think we need to put the brakes on with that sort of thing. I think we need to stop and really look at what we believe and why we believe it. And if we're standing up in front of groups of people, and I've mentioned this before in my show numerous times as an example, saying that, I was in my backyard, having a barbecue or sitting around the fire pit, and Jesus came down from heaven and told me that there were evil reptilians all around me that we need to, I have to do spiritual battle with. we got a problem. We need to stop and think, how true is this? Or is this some kind of delusion or illusion? Am I having some kind of, nervous breakdown? Or, there's various things where religion can actually cause someone to break down psychologically. I think one of them is religious excitation. There's I don't remember the names of the other ones, but it starts to affect the person mentally, where they start having religious delusions and obsessions. I know religious obsession is one of them. So we have to be careful. If we're sitting around and suddenly think, it's being shown to us, in our mind, somehow by God, that we are the reincarnation of, Adam, who was Edgar Casey, who was the prophet Elijah, who was, whomever, we might want to put that thought on pause and explore why it is we're thinking this. And, is what we're saying, does it line up with the Bible? Does it line up with the Urantia book? Does it line up with the Quran or whatever it is we happen to be reading? Because this person who I previously mentioned, claiming all these things about, being reincarnations of all these people, and he was, responsible for bringing the Urantia book to planet Earth, that's not even in line with what the Urantia book talks about. The Urantia book does not support reincarnation. It itself, like the Bible, promotes the idea we live once and then we go to the next dimensions of life. We go to the mansion worlds and continue our spiritual evolution toward God. But yet there's people who, like with the Bible, try to find things to force that, yes, it does teach reincarnation, when it doesn't. And then a lot of people start believing a lot of weird things, and it becomes the fanaticism and the strangeness and the cult mentality. And that also becomes another great hindrance to spiritual companionship. I mean, it's great for all the people that buy into the strange ideas because, hey, they're all, living on, cloud nine together with whatever it is they believe. But is that what we must do? Is that what the average seeker must do? Is just throw all caution to the wind, throw away all logic, all reason, all understanding, all spiritual intelligence, and just say, well, to heck with it. I'm going to join in and believe I'm the reincarnation of, the Apostle Paul, or I'm the reincarnation of Eve, or I'm the reincarnation of, the Virgin Mary, or Muhammad, or whoever. It's almost like we have to throw all of those things away in order to fit in with some of these groups, or become very critical or conspiracy minded or fanatical in the sense, that, oh, you don't believe what I believe, you're going to hell. We talked about those kind of attitudes in previous shows, being very judgmental of people. And so it becomes a very big hindrance to the everyday, average, normal, decent person of faith looking for spiritual companionship, because that's another thing they keep running into all over the place, is the fanaticism and the very strange and bizarre ideas and claims of other people and groups. And if you're listening to this show and you're one of those people that think you're, Mother Mary, or, the reincarnation of Eve or Jesus or whatever the case may be, step back and think about what you're believing. If you're into fanaticism, step back and ask yourself why. Whatever happened to simple faith? Whatever happened to simple, peace, faith, hope, and love? Loving our neighbor as ourselves. Praying and expecting a God of love just to take care of us. He has our back. And sometimes wonderful and miraculous things do happen, and we have spiritual encounters that, wow, it changes your perspective on a lot of things. But that spiritual encounter, here's the rub, ladies and gentlemen. If it makes you want to be a better person, a more loving person, peace, faith, hope, love, positive faith, loving others, if it pushes you in that direction, you probably had a real spiritual encounter. If it starts turning you fanatical and dogmatic, you now have all the answers. You're now making some very big claims about yourself. You're something more than the average human being. Well, then it was probably something else. Or maybe some kind of, psychological delusion that's happening for some reason. Check your stress levels, check your anxiety level. What's happening in your life that could have caused this to happen? Because chances are, if it's pushing you in that direction, it wasn't a true and valid spiritual encounter. And you become another person who becomes a very serious roadblock for other people finding spiritual companionship, because all they keep finding is this fanaticism, strange ideas, all the things we talked about previous. And ladies and gentlemen, this is not the way it's supposed to be. This is not the way we're supposed to be acting as children of God, as children of the light. And we might think we're all special and wonderful and doing the right thing, being opinionated and arrogant and mean and punishing others when they don't believe what we believe. We might think we're so wonderful and special because somehow we believe we're the reincarnation of the Apostle John and we wrote books in the Bible in a past life, or we're somebody else who helped bring a book like the Urantia book or the Quran to planet Earth. But I'll tell you what, the day will come when you leave this earth, you will see the harm you've done to other people through these kinds of things. The divisions, the isolation, the hopelessness that all of this contributed to. When were so many people who needed love and light and companionship and hope in their lives. Now, I'm not talking here about being thrown into hell or standing before the judgment seat where God is, berating us for our mistakes. None of us really know what happens when we leave this world, what the judgment is, but I'm fairly sure there is a life review. And we feel the sadness and the disappointment and the shame at the things we did in this life that hurt others, because we see it from our perspective, but also from the other person's perspective and what they felt. And people that have had that life review say it is a very heavy sorrow, overwhelming. None of us can say 100% sure what comes after that. But I think it would be wise to Think about what we're doing, what we're projecting out into the world, what our faith is saying about us. Are we truly being a light to the world? Or are we closing the door to spiritual companionship on other people? Are we turning other people away from God because maybe you were the last person or the last group that they encountered and you broke their heart, you disappointed them, and they walked away and said, I give up. I don't believe in God anymore. I can't take these kind of people anymore. I can't take these kind of experiences anymore. And let me tell you something, as a spiritual counselor, that happens more than you would think. And we need to get rid of this notion that, oh, well, maybe they didn't like what I had to say, but I planted the seed and it'll grow later. No, sometimes you're just spraying weed killer on a struggling plant, and you're killing it. So let's stop justifying these things that we do and we say and start treating one another better. There's the old saying that said in this world that we are God's hands, and that in this life sometimes we are the only Jesus another person will see. Are you being God's hands? Are you being a good representative of Christ? Are you truly bringing hope and light and life and faith and compassion and kindness and understanding to other people's lives who need it? Or are you breaking other people's hearts? Are you breaking other people's spirits so that all hope is gone? Because as much as they've tried to find a safe haven in this world, they couldn't find it amidst all of this confusion and, dare I say, craziness. I think this is something we all need to think about seriously, because it's a very big problem in all of the spiritual communities in this day and age. So listen, folks, I really appreciate you listening. I hope someone out there got something out of this podcast, something positive, something good. And until next time, keep walking in faith, hope, and love. And I'll talk to you soon here on the Spirit Side.